Hey, Looking Glass family, I'm here with Dulce. She's joining me to have a conversation about XR and holograms and what she's been up to. Dulce, thanks so much for joining us. Would love to hear a little bit about you.
Thank you, Marlon. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited and honored to be interviewing for Looking Glass and the amazing product that the Looking Glass portrait is. I've had so much fun since getting it, and honestly, when I work with the portrait, I always feel like this is all the years of my learning and my spending time in the XR space and in the digital space. It's all like right there in my hand right now. You know, that's how it feels. It's very visceral and cool in that way. But yeah, it's been a long time since I've been in the space. I've, close to 30 years now, working in computers. Got my domain, dulce.com, in 1996, and just have been a techno digital citizen ever since, right? And I've been building websites. I was there in the very beginning of Shockwave when Flash was all over the web. I actually worked for Shockwave and produced several pieces that got onto the website for entertainment sites and stuff. And I spent a lot of time producing, but in 2009, I discovered Second Life. And I went to college for 3D animation, by the way, and 3D modeling. And I left it all behind to build websites because I discovered HTML. But 2009, I discovered Second Life, and I realized that I really needed to dust off my 3D modeling skills and my chops again and start building out virtual spaces and virtual experiences, specifically clothes and furniture in the house, because I wanted to live in this space as a full community, and I have friends in there, and I want to invite them over to my island and hang out with them and look cute at the same time and be fashionable and share gifts and have camaraderie with other people, and and that's all super fun in Second Life, and I really it was very inspiring. And in Second Life, I discovered augmented reality. So in virtual reality, I discovered augmented reality. And that happened, it's a cool story. I was invited to a party that was going on the simulator. And it was packed. The simulator could hold up to 100 avatars, and it was packed. All 100 avatars were on that simulator. It took me 20 minutes to actually finally get into the simulator. And when I got in, because I was teleported by the DJ, I landed right next to the DJ, right? And we're standing on something big, and I could see across everywhere, and it's just a sea of avatars dancing below us, right? And then I zoomed my camera around, and I saw that we were standing on an old 1950s mid-century modern CRT television set. And I noticed that what was being played on this TV was a stream of real life, of this DJ spinning in real life in Sweden, in a square, and they had 3D projection lamps hitting the building behind them, and they were showing animations that were really precise and engaging with the windows and doing all kinds of interesting things. And I was just so taken back by this mixed reality experience, so taken back by it. And I questioned, what is that going on behind you? And he said, that's augmented reality, baby. And I remember seeing the words augmented reality just pop up, and my whole my soul kind of split in half and jumped out of itself a little bit. I was just what is augmented reality? What are you doing augmenting your reality? That is so weird and so cool, and I need to know more. And I never turned back.
That's awesome. So, yeah. And it's so crazy to think that now, we're having this moment where, we're talking about, virtual spaces, and for folks that have, already, experienced, what it's like to be in these types of environments, it must be a really interesting time for you.
Yeah, it is an interesting time because I see people grappling with what the metaverse is and what the idea of the metaverse is. And a lot of people are jumping into the space without ever actually consuming Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash, right? And I that was the book of the 90s. everybody in the 90s talked about that in Diamond Age. Snow Crash and Diamond Age were like the books. You have to read those books. And then when Second Life came out and it was, I heard it was based on Snow Crash, I was like, oh, that's really cool, and it was very intriguing. To see people base their understanding of the metaverse on what Facebook, now Meta, is describing it, or what they assume like GTA would be, all these places that have capitalized on these concepts that Neil Stephenson wrote over the last 20 years, like that's what they're basing it on, right? And not even what the original writing was. So it's kind of very interesting.
You and I know each other, from the community, from the hackathon space. We've been at MIT together before hacking, and I think it's ultimately at the end of the day, it's just individual folks that are continuously chipping away at the future. What's been your journey like as far as a community member like in the XR space? Because I know that you're a part of a lot of different communities as well.
Yeah, it's actually been rather interesting because I spent most of my 2016, 15, actually 14 through 16, really experimenting with the idea of mixed reality and using Second Life and things like Masquerade and Snapchat to do the mixed reality. And the young people, like I do a lot of demos with WebXR. And when I'm talking about the platforms and what the capabilities are with these platforms, it's mostly the young people who stick around and really listen. And they're writing things down and they're asking questions and they're asking me to repeat the same thing over again so they can, keep it to memory. And it's just really cool because older crowd will come by and be like, oh, okay, that's nice. Well, it's a website and you can have an immersive experience on a website. And they're like, okay, yeah, that's great. Totally. They don't, it's not like they really understand it totally or how it can work in their world, right? Where giving a gamer the ability to create their own game space that they can completely control, and it's on a smart chain and it's completely interactive and they can code it up with their own hands if they just know the right platforms and frameworks. That's very empowering and it's cool.
Totally. And you're such a great speaker and teacher. I love seeing you on all these different panels and participating as a keynote speaker. I think you have so much to teach everyone, not to mention you've been working across so many different modalities because it's VR, mobile AR, I've seen you rock Magic Leap, we've done, a music hackathon together at Capitol Records once, it's really, really cool for you to be able to share that, and give back to the community and, tell us a little bit about your process, because, I'm always, I'm just always so excited to see your characters, your characters and the fashion, that they wear. Tell us a little bit about those characters and how you make them.
So my characters are my AV goddesses, and I call them AV because AV stands for, it's a shorter version for avatar, and that's what we call them in Second Life. You can either do the AV or AVIE to say your avatar. And they're goddesses because it's mostly female. And I did buy avatar gods, which I will make, male, female, everything. That's one thing coming up. But I started with AV goddess because, female avatars or female form is something I've always been drawn to as far as like representing it in my art, right? And because it's something very magical about the female figure and the way it's represented. I mean, 90% of men that go into virtual spaces will wear a female avatar at some point in their experience just because it's nice to look at one, right?
Absolutely.
So I make these avatars and I use, I start with DAZ 3D, and I use like the base Genesis model that they've got. They have a starter kit on DAZ 3D, and it's Genesis 8 and Genesis 3. I use Genesis 8 and I start with that. and I have a builder, a feature builder in DAZ, and I'm able to like really hone in on features. And so right now I'm making bespoke avatars for my friends. I'm for the women in XR group, or the couple of women in the XR group have asked me to create some avatars for them, and I'm working on that right now. So you'll see, I'm gonna post them soon. These avatars, very tailored to look just like them, but more like an idealized version of them. And then these avatars, because I'm building them from scratch, pretty much already rigged out with all the full rig features from DAZ 3D, I'm able to take it into Blender, and from Blender, I'm now able to export it out to, you know, GLB or to Unity or to Unreal Engine, and have like everything all kind of baked in properly, you know, and looking beautiful, animated in there if I need to, you know, and they're, you know, they're ready to go for places like Sansar and VR Chat, and anywhere that will take a fully rigged, fully facial, blend shaped avatar. I make these types of avatars. So these avatars have been very inspirational for me with the Looking Glass, because I've been animating them and I've been learning my process of taking these complex animations out of DAZ and putting them into Blender, and then also adding new animations on top of these rigged avatars that come into Blender to make these really complex quilts that take weeks to render.
Wow.
It did. It took 2 weeks to render the animated one of my Paris latex corset. Cora corset is what was the inspiration for that rooftop dominatrix.
Totally.
Yeah.
Tell us about those characters we've seen, you know, in the Looking Glass, because I'll say, you know, as far as I can recall, you know, you made the first almost like noir, like hologram, you know, that I had ever seen anybody do on the Looking Glass, and it was such a vibe, right? It was such a fashion vibe. Tell us about this character.
Okay, so what's so interesting about this character is that there was a tribute post to a dominatrix, a French dominatrix from the 70s. Her name was Cora Corset, and it was going around the internet. And this one picture of her standing on the roof in Paris with the Eiffel Tower behind her, and she's got this big brim hat, and her waist is like tiny and like cinched in, and she's wearing some boots. And I was like, that is a really dope look. Like, you know, so cool. Like she looked like an alien, right? Like something from out of this world. And I was like, I want to recreate that in 3D. So I did. I went and I made like a cyborg dominatrix with a very like cinched waist, with a big brim hat, and just really cool kind of alien looking lady on the rooftop of Paris. And I initially had it in full color, and then I took it into Photoshop, one of my initial renders of it, and I threw the black and white filter over it. I was like, oh, that's perfect. Like it needed to be black and white noir, because the original photo of Cora Corset was a black and white photo as well. So it just totally worked in black and white, way better than color. So then when I took the animation of it, I made her dance in like a snake little dance, and I brought that into Blender. I was able to just add a filter straight on the camera in Blender to give the vignette and to make it all very noir-like, and the quilt rendered that way. It rendered in black and white. Yeah.
Super cool. So it's a lot of like experimentation and inspiration from, you know, fashion and, you know, so many different areas. That's so cool. Big inspiration for a lot of us that are out there that are, you know, on these different journeys. You know, I think that's one thing that's very relatable about creative people that are working in this space that, you know, isn't, you know, fully developed yet, right? We're all kind of explorers and, you know, kind of astronauts in our own way, everyone coming with their own sort of authentic voice. And so, you know, tell us a little bit about, you know, what other ideas you have for like fashion and holograms, you know, and you know, what would be, you know, other ideal projects or lines and things that you'd love to do?
Well, I have a really cool idea for the Looking Glass that I've been throwing around in my brain for a while now. I was thinking that it would be cool to have the large looking glass, right, installed in public areas, and then have maybe an app where NFT owners of looking glass quilts can just share live right in the spot, right? You know, something where people can just like walk up to a kiosk, a looking glass kiosk, and just share their NFT to the world and be like, that's mine, you know, that kind of stuff. Because you go to New York and you see them in the billboards everywhere, you know, and everybody's now putting it on their avatars. Everybody wants to share their NFTs, and the NFT in the looking glass looks so beautiful. So beautiful. So I'm taking my Esme goddess and I'm creating a generative version of her in 3D for looking glass. And I've already made one. I'm now making several more with different color sets and hairstyles and things. But it just looks so beautiful in there. And I'm just so, it's you got to see it in person. That's all I got to say. So NFTs in the looking glass, I think, would be something I'm really keen to figure out, right? And how that would work, especially in different gallery settings, and when people purchase, like that's an interesting thing to solve, right? Like when they buy an NFT, and if it's accompanied with a display, you know, how does that work? Those are things that I find interesting. With fashion and NFTs, I think it's really the future of everything, right? And, you know, imagine having one of these displays installed in, you know, a virtual store that's also tied to a real brick and mortar, right? And you buy it, and virtually it gets sent to you brick and mortar in the mail, or if you're in the brick and mortar and you buy it there, then it gets sent to you virtually. And just having this view of your avatar, like being able to bring your avatar into a fitting room of sorts, right? And then you can just put a wearable on and do it in a holographic way. Like that is really cool, you know?
Yeah. Do you think that we'll ever see like and especially in the retail space, you know, where, you know, you go out and, you know, you get like a jacket, or you get, you know, some kind of fashion item, for it to be accompanied with a digital version for your avatar?
That's happening now. So Adidas is definitely doing those kinds of things, right? Or, and I know that, I think it was American Express is doing a partnership with SZA, where it's kind of the same thing. If you use the certain American Express credit card to buy clothing, you get SZA branded content, as well as that same clothing item, or certain clothing items for, you know, NFT branded. Or if you buy certain types of music, you get an NFT tied to it that's branded with SZA. And it's just interesting how like people are trying to figure out different ways to have the connection between their virtual selves or their digital selves and their real self. The whole digital twin is really going to be like a factor, you know?
You know, especially for you that has been, you know, a fan and a, you know, participant in like virtual spaces and all of that. You know, this idea of like your digital twin, you know, what's your view on that? You know, like how?
Well, okay. So if you were to ask me this question 2-3 years ago, I probably would have a different answer than I do now. My answer right now is it probably is a good thing for us as a society to figure this out right now, because we are on lockdown with an unhealthy world, right? The world is unhealthy. We can't even go mingle with each other and be around each other, right? So, and to be distant from each other is very unhealthy, right? So having the ability to represent myself and connect in a virtual space is somewhat a cathartic thing that we kind of need. And figuring it out right now is the best time. I mean, we have to. We only have time at the moment to try to figure this out. So now, if you were to ask me that question a few years ago, I would have been like, I don't know. I don't know if it's really going to be beneficial for society to do this right now. You know, it's going to definitely be more niche and like you know, trendy, but for like a certain group of people to be niche and trendy.
That's so cool. You shared that awesome story about being on the dance floor with the DJ. You know,
Yeah.
maybe are there any other like memorable experiences that you've had, you know, in virtual spaces?
Wow. So, oh my gosh. So I definitely have to say that some of the most amazing, visceral, beautiful, just heartwarming experiences I've ever had happen to be ones that were in Second Life. Um, and the main reason is the people. So I'm with really good friends, the quality of experience that we're having, and the just the sheer nature of it being so new and interesting, right? And this was back in like 2010 and 2011, right? Before alt space and before VR chat and before these other places. This was going on there, right? And you know, having DJ parties where, you know, I can max out my sim to 50 people and it's packed the whole time, right? And just the most epic music listened to in these spaces, and people from all over the world, you know, participating and enjoying and having fun and chatting. Like, those things were really, really cool. And I know that that goes on now in alt space, in VR chat, and all these other places. You know, it's a continuation of that in a more immersive environment. But for me, those were the coolest things that I've experienced, like personally, that have really, like the memories I have of them. You know, like for one, you know, there was a sim in Second Life where you're like the size of a mouse, right? And you have to, when you land in like these tall grass, and then you have to like find the trail, and then you find the mouse hole, and then you have to go through the mouse hole. You pass cheese, you pass mouse traps, you pass all kinds of stuff, and then you go through the hole, and then you're in like an old 1950s kitchen with like the Tom and Jerry maid with her legs and her chanclas. She's wearing the chanclas, and like her legs and she's just like shuffling back, like she's standing there like either peeling potatoes or cutting onions or something, right? And you can see her body moving around, but you're like this little tiny thing looking up her skirt and stuff. And it's just, you know, crazy stuff like that, you know, existed in Second Life. And when you go into those spaces with a bunch of friends that are funny and witty, and you know, there's a lot of interactive things in there, it's just, you have a great time. And it's all like not possible in real life fun stuff. And I know all of that goes on in VR chat. I've experienced it in VR chat and in alt space. But my first taste of it, the real one that I really enjoyed, that I had good friends that I enjoyed it with, that all happened in Second Life. And
like a digital nostalgia you have.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And it's exactly that, because when I remember it like if I was immersed completely in it. Like, I don't remember it like I was looking at it through a screen. You know, it's right. Weird. It's very interesting how that works. Yeah.
No, that's so interesting. Yeah, I love the, you know, also just now, especially the idea of like how we can bring things from these special places, you know, into the real world, you know.
Yeah.
How do you feel about, you know, being able to do that, you know? And I'm thinking, you know, obviously with the Looking Glass, like a lot of like artifacts, right? There's things we collect. You know, what are some of these like objects that would be cool to like, you know, bring back, you know, from these spaces to our physical environment?
So many. Like, I have in my Second Life, I have a collection of airships, right? I have a Zeppelin, and I have a steampunk airship. I have a big spaceship. I have an alien barge airship. Just all these, you know, airships that are all rezzed, and they're big platforms. I would love to take those and show them off in real space, right? Or even make a portal into those when an event is happening through something like the Looking Glass, right? And then, you know, you put the leap motion on it, and you can like spin the airship around. And how cool would that be if somebody is on the looking glass spinning the airship around, and then in VR the airship starts spinning around too,
Totally.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, that's like some cool shit right there. Like,
Yeah.
those are the things that I would love to do, you know?
Yeah, it's like a magic window, right? That like, you know, you can like reach in and like, you know, touch this other world, right?
Yeah, mixed reality. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's what's so exciting, you know, is like the idea of like portals like into these worlds. I think now it's like, it's so established that, yeah, you know, we can create these like expansive virtual worlds, but the gap, the bridge, right, is like beginning to merge, right? I think that's like something that's really interesting.
Yeah, that's
super cool. Any like virtual worlds that you would love to build at this time?
Oh, I'm building it.
Oh yeah, tell us.
So I'm actually building out Dulce.com into virtual spaces, and I'm actually building out each one of my NFT themes. So like I have these different themes that I made with my Esme goddess, and she's in these, you know, she's in a firescape, she's in a bodyscape, she's in these different theme spaces. So I'm actually going to turn those into real virtual spaces for other people to go into and see. So I'm working on that right now. Yeah, and that's all web-based. It's all going to be on the web. Yeah, interoperable, cross-modal on the web.
That's awesome. I better get an invite to the kickback.
Yep, you'll get an invite. Yeah, I'm working on it. I'm one person, but I'm working on it. Yeah,
that's
it's
awesome.
Fun though. Yeah.
What's been inspiring for you? You know, that's gotten you really to like a lot of the fashion. Or is there any artists or designers or?
Oh yeah. I mean, I find inspiration in anything. I find inspiration in other people, in fashion designers. I want to say like people like Jeremy Scott and Terry Mugler and John Galliano. Very like just fantastic. Alexander McQueen. Very fantastical, very haute couture, just outlandish kind of fashion that inspires me like all. Like that's just I love crazy fashion sense, right? I love cyberpunk fashion sense. I'm right now spending a lot of time in Marvelous Designer actually making my own clothing. So these new avatars that I'm going to be releasing will actually be wearing gowns that I've made. So that'll be fun. I do like supporting other artists to make things. So I'm a collector as well. I love collecting just all kinds of virtual gear and digital gear from other people and sporting it on my avatars when I'm in virtual spaces. So that's a really fun thing, and that's something I've really gained through Second Life, because there's a huge community of creators in there who make amazing work.
I can't wait to see you, you know, do more talks on the future. You know, I think that you're such a futurist and you have so much foresight and, you know, experience. So this has been really like enlightening for me, and I'm sure for everybody that's watching as well.
Thank you.
Where can people follow your work? Like, what's the best way to get a hold of Dulce?
So my Instagram is Dulce303. That's DULCE 303. And I'm also on Facebook, same thing, Dulce303. Dulce.com is my website, and you can find me there as well. I'm also on OpenSea at Dulce303, and I have some pieces up on OpenSea for minting, or they've been minted for listing. So if you're interested in buying some AV Goddess pieces, go to OpenSea.
Yes, beautiful pieces, of course. Definitely. Cool. Well, thanks for joining us, and you know, really appreciate all of your contributions in the Looking Glass community and to the XR community at large. You know, Dulce,
thank you.
You're a real rock star.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you, Marlon.
Awesome.